Hi, and welcome to Life of TRI Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Owen. So in this episode, we're joined by Dan Bullock from Swim for TRI. Dan comes from a swimming background and then has competed quite highly within triathlon as well. He's a fantastic swimmer and he's taken that on into triathlon as well. Dan used to swim competitively, so he's taken the knowledge that he has and taking it into the coaching element as well. So he's a very knowledgeable guy. We have a really good chat about how you support beginners in triathlon who don't necessarily have a swimming background. And we also discuss his latest venture, and it's been running for a little while now, but that's the session in a bottle. So it's basically a water bottle that has six swim sessions printed on the side of it, so you're limiting what you take to the pool. It's a fantastic concept. He's got about 4 different bottles out. Check it out. I'll link in the description his website and his social media handles and whatnot. But anyway, here's the episode. We'll jump straight in. So I'm joined by Dan from Swim for TRI. Dan, how's things with you? How's COVID affecting you at the moment?
It's been a tough 6 months, what with the pools closed for business, but we've been lucky to get a little bit more time at our local lake, and we've been coaching there for about 10 years now. So we have a good relationship with the owner, and that's been great, getting out the house after the lockdown. It's a shame the pools aren't, yes, they're available, but the local pools in London that we use are not allowing sort of club structured sessions back yet. We're hoping that all being well, that should change October 1st. So we're very excited to get back and just get back to some normality. I know it's a funny old word we're throwing around a lot these days, but for me, being on poolside, it's just where I want to be and what I enjoy doing.
So tell us a little bit about Swim for TRI, and tell us a little bit about your background as well, because I know you're a swim coach. I know you come from a swimming background, but how's it developed into where you are now?
Well, it's interesting. So my sister was a swim teacher back in the 90s. I was working with a video sort of software company, and I'd quit swimming after a very long career. I came back from the US. I swam there in Ohio for 4 years, had a fantastic time, started work, took up triathlon because I was still sporty, and it was kind of bubbling under, and it seemed like, I didn't want to just hang out at the gym. I wasn't a runner. I thought about masters swimming, but obviously as a swimmer, just to drop back into masters swimming in your mid-20s, it's just like you've been doing it all your life. So the London Tri was available. I raised money from Macmillan Nurses. They've been looking after my father, and it just seemed like a nice thing to do. And I got the bugs. And then before I knew it, I was off for age group world champs in 2000, 2001, Ironman 2003. And all the while, people had been asking, like, "Oh, how do you swim the way you do?" I mean, like, I was lucky. I've been swimming all my life, but it was interesting to. Well, actually, I don't know how I swim like this. And I'd been technically minded. I'd been interested in swim technique, but I didn't know how to coach. So I spoke to my sister. She was a teacher. We hired some lanes. We invited I was with East London Triathlon at the time. We rented some lanes, got some filming. I brought the cameras. And, back in early 2000, underwater footage was pretty groundbreaking, not in the elite arena. And people were just asking for it. And we were able to supply it. And before we knew it, give it a couple of years, 2005, we both quit our regular jobs, and Swim for TRI just blossomed. We added fitness sessions because people wanted a little bit more attention to detail once they'd finished a technique block or a weekend workshop. Then we needed to find a lake because people obviously wanted to go outdoors. And then training camps evolved as well. And I met some great coaches, Steve True, Joe Beer, Steve went to the Olympics in 2000. I raced with a couple of his athletes. So it just really blossomed from a small thing. And, you know, we've kept it pretty small. I didn't like the idea of, I did write a CPD for British Swimming to help swimming coaches migrate into welcoming triathletes. Sort of that was available a long time ago. They didn't really sort of work with it too much. It kind of fell by the wayside. But the idea of sort of franchising or licensing coaches, I like the idea that we had a small group, really good coaches. They were racing, they were knowledgeable. We were sharing knowledge together. Back then there wasn't any guidebooks, there wasn't any handbooks. I did some British Triathlon qualifications, but the swimming was pretty weak back then. Yeah. The Amateur Swimming Association didn't really have an understanding of open water. So we were racing ourselves, thinking about what worked, took what we knew from the pool, and I literally had to learn how to coach and help impart some of this technical knowledge.
And for me, and I want to touch on one thing actually before we go into it. And I came to know about you through the bottles that you that you offer, and I love them. So for anyone who doesn't know about the Swim for Tri bottles, they're brilliant. They're a normal water bottle, but they have workouts on them. And I am forever going to the gym, or I was forever going to the gym with my workout in a zip tie bag because I didn't want it to get wet. It was on a piece of paper in a zip tie bag, and normally then that would be I'd have a rubber band around it attached to my water bottle. So this puts everything that I've normally done and into it. And so I wish I'd had your idea maybe 10 years ago or so, but no, they're brilliant. So what I would say is anyone who's looking for that sort of product, check them out. And even if you're not looking for that product, check it out as well.
Thank you.
They're brilliant. And I know you've just released a new one, haven't you? The green one.
The technical bottle's on its way, literally on its way. We've got a selection of drills that will help work on a certain body part. We working closely with the graphic designer. As you say, everyone's been looking at this on Poolside for years with a piece of paper wrapped around.
Yeah.
And I just took out my two favorite sort of subsets. We had a warm down that I really liked. And so I knew that they could be repeated over and over again, but we needed some variety. And this idea of using the column for the 6 main sets was what the graphic designer and I thought was quite clever, if you'll forgive me a little bit of indulgence. So again, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Everyone will have their own ideas, but I've been hopefully as helpful as possible on the website to let people know how to interpret the sessions, read the sessions, twist the sessions so that you can get more out of them, swim it in different ways. There's other training effects by just flipping the rest periods. So they've generally been fitness blocks all the way around. Now we've got a column of drills to be done to help your leg kick, to help your catch position, to help your breathing or your rotation. So they all go around now. So I'm hoping that takes off. It's something that I've been toying with, laminated mini folders. I know they've been done before, but I like the idea of, 2 for the price of 1.
Yeah.
Why take
and that's it though. When you go to Poolside, you take so much stuff normally, depending on what session you're doing. So if you can minimize that, I think it's a brilliant idea. So hopefully, it will take off for you, and happy to promote that as much as we can.
Thank you. I've got so we're going to offer a turbo spin bike soon, and a like a 5-10K run one as well. If people are on treadmills in the gym, I've been working with Steve, GB 2000 Olympic coach in Sydney. That's a great training camp we go to, and I help out on in Italy in May. And so we've been working closely for years. So he's developing the run and bike sessions right now. So, we called it Session in a Bottle, not particularly, initially swimming is my background, but thinking this might work for other disciplines. I think swimming, it'll be key, because obviously that is where the soggy mess happens
Yeah.
with your piece of paper. So it may or may not, but you know what, we're having fun. Just, during lockdown, we needed some other revenue. I had ideas. It just sort of fitted at that time.
Yeah, no, I think it's a cracking idea. And also, and this is, I suppose, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on. For many triathletes, swimming is probably their weakest discipline. And I know I'm generalizing here, but in my experience, a lot of people would have run previously, may have cycled previously, but a lot less of them would have swam competitively. They may have swam as a child and they may know how to swim, but whether they know how to swim for racing is totally different. And that's probably what I wanted to explore with you today is, how do you go about trying to support a triathlete who's relatively new to triathlon, but may have a, knows how to swim? Because there's plenty of people out there that I know of, and one of the first times I ever came across triathlon was to go and watch a mate of mine who'd signed up for Ironman and had only learned to swim the year before.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, you say, wow, he did fantastic to get where he was, but unfortunately he did time out on the swim. It was probably a little bit too much too soon, but that's a story for another day. But it just shows that so many people probably don't fully understand the swim, and especially fully understand open water swimming, because again, that's a totally different kettle of fish to swimming lengths in a pool.
I mean, yeah, if you look at the longest pool race at the Olympics, it's the 1,500 meters. And then suddenly we're asking Ironman athletes to swim 3.8K. It is a massive undertaking, even with a wetsuit, even if you're fit and strong from years of biking or running, swimming can really fatigue you rapidly. And I've seen that. And, we don't work with, I have worked with elite athletes over the years. I've helped some elite duathletes become very good at Ironman. It's a great challenge, but we are generally a small swim school that helps adults learn to swim faster, and that slots nicely into the world of triathlon. A lot of people remember a few of the basics from school, or when they were younger, they might have done a little bit at a swimming club. But it is a big ask, and if you're tired on the bike, you can kind of sit up. If you're tired on the run, you can sit down and have a full rest. When you're out in the middle of a lake, the sea, there's not much you can do really. And if there's one frustration, I think Ironman has become, people have just started entering them. I waited 10 years thereabouts before I contemplated doing Ironman, and that was with a swimming background. It is a big undertaking.
I laugh at that, Dan, only because I was one of those stupid people.
I have nothing but the utmost respect for somebody that enters Ironman and thinks, right, I'm going to give this go. I will support them. I will help them. But they have to appreciate you've got to put some time into the swim. And I've sat in front of audiences on tri camps, and people have said, but it's only a small fraction of the day. But as your friend found out, it's a big fraction if they don't allow you to continue. I know it's frustrating. Swimming is not time efficient. You can't open the door. Most people can't open the door and jump in the way they can go for a run. It needs some dedication. It needs some discipline. It needs some structure, and it needs technique really. Because
and you're right with the technique side of things, because when I suppose I'm a runner if I could be classed as any of the three disciplines. I generally come from team sport, but when I came into triathlon, I did come in with my blinkers on thinking, it'd be easy. It's just running, cycling and swimming. But the technical side of at least the swimming and the bike element was totally alien to me. I'd ridden a bike for 20 years when or 15 years when I was a kid. I'd swam for probably a similar amount of time. But it's a totally, totally different, arena to be in. Like I said earlier, and I think people really, really underestimate it, and And then all of a sudden, when they're thrown in at the deep end, they get a little bit scared, especially with Ironman. So, I'm used to Ironman Wales. I'm based in Cardiff. The swim for Ironman Wales is a daunting prospect.
Yeah.
It's a sea swim, and Tenby, where it's based, can either be like a mill pond, or it can be something from, well, some sort of horror film in my mind. My first swim at Tenby was a notorious year for a bad swim. It's 2014, my first ever Ironman. And it got to the point where you were swimming out to the first buoy, and the waves were hitting you as you were going out. And you would get to the top of the wave, and you would then stroke, but there'd be no water to stroke into, because you would then fall down the other side of the wave. And it was unbelievable. And so many people, and going back to what you said earlier about people underestimating it, people not really, respecting it maybe, that people came out of that swim and they were like, I'm done. I can't go on. And I remember having a conversation with a guy in transition, so T1, and he'd completed the swim. He got out in plenty of time. He was there roughly the same time as me. So, he had well over an hour to go. And he was like, I'm done. I just can't go on, because he had expelled so much energy to get around that swim. He couldn't see himself going any further.
I mean, just to give you, I share that, I jumped into the London Triathlon as a swimmer, back in 1997, if I remember rightly, as a swimmer, and I was leading, and I still had a minor panic attack because I didn't like the fact I couldn't see my black line. There was people around me. It was cold. I had the wetsuit tie. I mean, I had done no preparation because I was a swimmer. So, to reinforce how different the world of open water is. I mean, again, you could be flippant and say that it is just front crawl and occasionally you lift your head up, and, that's not far off, but to reassure you to keep things calm will go a long, long way. And if you want to become a better swimmer, I'm sorry, but there needs to be an investment of time. And again, obviously, I'm going to say that as a swim coach because that's how I get paid. But honestly, most people, we've got a small swim school in London. Most of you won't come and see me, but I'm just honestly giving you the truth. And if anybody promises you the world, I would be, skeptical if they can promise you massive gains in just a couple of lessons. Swimming is the tricky one.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that, because a few years ago, I remember going for a swim analysis, and, they're all very well. You swim in a nice sort of endless pool or whatever it is, the camera, and I, as a naive triathlete and a naive swimmer, went into that thinking, oh, this person will just say, change this, change that, and, you'll be faster. But it doesn't work like that. And I can't remember what the statistic is, but, if you want to change anything that has been sort of ingrained into you, your muscle memory and things, it takes potentially hours and hours in the pool or redoing that particular exercise before you make any sort of change. And the biggest thing I find with swimming is I can start off with really, really good form and technique, or good for me anyway. But the moment I get fatigued, everything goes out the window. Everything that I've learned, especially if it's anything new, and I just revert back to form, and really bad form as well.
It's an interesting one because, we talk in terms of endurance for swimming, really. You need technique to give some form of speed, which comes from being, more propulsive with lower drag. But you need to be able to repeat those movements for thousands of repetitions. The endurance to repeat accurately is what's so critical for swimming. And you don't necessarily have to be particularly strong in terms of, bench pressing 300 pounds, but you need to be able to repeat thousands of repetitions. So, I like to, we run a bunch of fitness sessions, and I will repeat and I will bore people until they're, blue in the face, technical points within the fitness session. So they're working hard, but they're constantly trying to stay on top of a technical aspect, as you said, you can start out with good form for a while. I mean, and don't get me wrong, everyone fatigues and slows, but it's the person that sort of fatigues the least, holds their form. Because as soon as you lose some rotation, as soon as you lean on a straight arm, as soon as you push down, then the drag increases and the effort levels go up, and then you're onto a vicious circle. It's a spiral that you can't beat unless somehow you can revert back to better technique, keeping the fingertips over, pivoting from the elbow, keeping your streamline, not pushing down, keeping the catch position accurate. And if I'm doing I did my last Ironman in 2008, and since then I've enjoyed pure open water swimming. I've got a family, I've got a business, and from my background, I can still be reasonably competitive over 5, 10K. And I enjoy those. I just haven't, I'm still competitive, but I don't have the time to bike and run really. But every couple of minutes I'll be thinking, right, streamline. Am I narrow? Am I extending through? Am I pulling with the palm and the forearm? Am I keeping the kick hidden behind the profile of the body? Am I turning into the breath rather than sort of lifting and leaning on that arm? Little mantra every couple of minutes, just a little thing to reset. And one of the lovely things we do on a weekend workshop is to show, you don't see much of this, but elite Olympian world-class swimmers doing some very basic swim drills. And when I show that, people are like, why are they doing that? Their technique's so good. It's because, like everyone, we fatigue, we get tired, we struggle, and like a golf swing, you have to kind of go back and polish it, refine it, and repair it before the next sort of hard session. And I think that's been really nice to be able to show people that, they're doing that simple sort of, I call it the Superman extended kicking. I'm on my side. I'm just doing front crawl legs only. I'm on my side. I'm turning to breathe. And I've got Olympic medalists doing that same thing. And a classroom of novices are wondering, like, why are they doing it? Because, at whatever level, you want to be streamlined. You want to swim narrow. You want to hold water, send it backwards. You don't want to push it down. And as you get tired, everyone, and actually poor technique. I did an article for Tri 247 a few years ago. So, don't beat yourself up. Think of it as too much of a negative. Your form failing is a reward for working hard. But the important thing is that you don't exit the pool with that bad form. Do a technical swim down, repair it, polish it, finesse it, repair it before you leave and you come back to the pool in a few days. And one thing I'm very fond of saying is one swim per week is 6 days of unlearning, and it can't just be one swim a week. I'm sorry. 2 to 3 swims a week, you might just maintain a plateau. 3 to 4, even if they're short, you carry the improvements over from session to session, and then the trajectory starts to go up. 3 to 4 sessions, you can make gains and keep it moving upwards and forwards and getting faster.
That's a really good point, because I don't think we swim enough, because, like you said earlier, people think of the swim within a triathlon as being the shortest sort of discipline, the least amount of time they're actually doing it. So they think the biggest gains could come from elsewhere. But you're 100% right. If you're fatigued going onto the bike, you're then likely to be fatigued going into the run. And that affects everything. And I tell you what, the big thing for me, and it's only ever happened a handful of times for me, when you hit that sweet spot when swimming, and this only happened a couple of times for cycling as well, and you get that moment where you feel like you're gliding through the water, where your technique seems to be spot on, you're not fatigued. It may well be at the beginning of an actual training session or a race, but there's no better feeling for me of that. Just gliding through the water. You don't feel like you've got any drag. And I love it. It's brilliant. And like I said, I've had it a couple of times on the bike as well, and it's brilliant.
I went back to masters pool swimming a few years ago, and I just didn't enjoy it because it's what I'd grown up with. Going down to open water, outdoors, whether it's a race or not, It's the vast expanse of the environment, the surrounding area. It's just, and again, if you can hit that, and I'd say one useful thing that I don't see many people doing at a race is warming up. And what you just described, that sweet spot, it often happens in the pool, 20 minutes in, and you've done a warm-up, you've done some drills maybe in a subset, you've started your main set, and then it kind of clicks. But imagine the gun had gone, say it's 7 p.m. and your session starts, it's like 20 past 7 before that sweet spot arrives. Yeah. And on race day, people sort of get in, the gun goes, and they're frantic, trying to mix it up a little bit. Think about that 20-minute gap before the race starts, of doing as much on dry land to get warm, to get blood flow into the shoulders, into the arms. Stretch cords are a wonderful invention, very cheap, very easy. I know a lot of people have suddenly been making use of them as the pools have been closed. But during that period leading to that gun starting, whatever time of day that might be for you, try to hit that sweet spot as the gun goes. Be warm from that earlier point, so that you can enjoy the swim, mix it up, draft with the lead pack if that's what you're, if you're chasing age group selection or, looking for a best time. Don't just arrive. I think on race day, the biggest thing you can give yourself is time. Don't arrive cutting it fine. The wetsuit, if you're a little bit hot, takes a long time to go on. And it should take a long time if it fits really well. If it goes on in a few 30 seconds, I guarantee that's too big for you. Yeah. And it will flood, it'll fill, and you'll be struggling. But give yourself some time on race day, practice some simple arm swinging, use your stretch cords, but try to create that sweet spot as the gun goes using a warm-up. I think that would help a lot of people. Very rare I see that at races.
Dan, can I ask you about wetsuits? And you may not be able to answer some of this, but you see people before a race, they are there, they're warming up in the sense of the warm-ups that I see people do is them going into the pool or the lake or the sea to sort of get used to the temperature and things. There's no physical warm-up like you've just mentioned. But, I was taught that you should let in a little bit of water into your wetsuit. One, it creates a bit of a layer of warmth and things, and two, just, it kind of acclimatizes your body. Is that true? Does that affect you negatively, positively?
I'm a big believer in, let's go back a fraction. So entering the water for a warm-up is going to be tricky because of the chaotic nature of everybody going in all directions. So the structure isn't really there. The temperature of the water probably won't, you can help acclimatize a little bit, but the coolness of the water will also struggle to warm. So you really want to pre-set that warm-up in motion. Somewhere like the London Tri, the docks, you can't even get in. So if I would take a bottle of water, flush it in, pat that through, squeeze it through, try not to sort of pull the water out, pull it down through try to just clamp the legs, clamp the arms, squeeze it through, pat it through. And yes, by putting a layer of water in, you'll flush out the air pockets. The wetsuit will kind of suck into all the little nooks and crannies. You will have a significantly better swim with the suit close fitting, sucked into the the undercarriage, the nooks and crevices. Yeah. If ever I'm rushed and I forget to do that, and I shouldn't, given the years I've been doing this, I can feel the water, because they're not airtight, they're not watertight. They'll still come in through the arms, they'll come in through the neck and the back, and you'll feel it getting heavier in the armpit, the base of the back. A lot of wetsuits and their fitting guides will actually encourage this flushing. And on training camps, we have the time to sort of go through that. And it's not nice because you might wade into some cooler water, but it's really worthwhile doing, just because then the suit will fit like a snug second skin. It'll work with you rather than allowing, excess water to gather and then work against you. So I'd absolutely try to find the time to do that, definitely.
Yeah, and because I swim locally in, one in a river, and there's a couple of sea swims by me, and a couple of lakes as well. And that shock when you first get in, and just acclimatizing yourself to it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the cooler temperatures.
I don't know if I am either.
The guys that swim all year round outdoors, hats off to them. They're a crazy gang, and I admire what they do. I do have a little bit of a friction with them sometimes when some of them come back to me and say, like, "Oh, I haven't really swum. I haven't really improved. I haven't improved my speed." Like, well, you've been in 5-degree water for 5 minutes. You can't possibly do any kind of a fitness session.
Yeah,
So, while I admire what you're doing in the winter, and I just had an interesting chat with one of our swimmers at the lake where we run the lessons, and he's maintained his triathlon physique and training to do an Ironman this autumn, but he's also been involved in a channel crossing as a relay where it's not quite, I mean, it's still an hour in the cool temperature, but again, you've got to pick your event. Those are two very different body types, two different attempts. You can't sort of have it both ways, really.
Yeah, and you're 100% right with that, because I think people often see channel swimmers and they look at them and they think they don't look very, and it's awful to say, but fit. But that means, because people are used to seeing these really lean sort of, either triathletes or swimmers, and the channel swimmers, they are a little bit, without being disrespectful to them, maybe a little bit chunkier than things. It's essential. Hats off to them.
It's essential. They need that, and it's part of the training. Yeah, I nearly got involved in a relay a few years ago. We missed our slot. I have to be honest, I was not that upset that we missed it. I went over to Lake Geneva and helped the relay, and that was beautiful. Anybody that wants to do it, it's very impressive. It's very expensive. It's a horrible lesson. It's a lot of planning and procedures. You've got to keep going down, practicing on the weekends. We went to Lake Geneva. We were surrounded by mountains. It was 72K. We had a nice boat. That was my idea.
Yeah, that sounds a lot nicer than having to try and go through shipping lanes and things. That's for sure. Dan, thanks for coming on. We'll call it a day there, but it's brilliant to get your insight. Maybe we'll find another topic in the future and get you back on. But if our listeners wanted to connect with you, how can they find out about you?
I mean, if you have swimming questions, I'm not precious about my time. Dan at Swim. I can link you into lesson sessions, videos, drills, and so on. Maybe people will have particular topics that they, and we can come back and address specific areas, technical issues. How do I breathe to both sides? Why is my kick sinking? There's a lot of traditional things that triathletes suffer from. But we're www.swimfortri.com. The bottles are available in our shop. We've got a designated website, which is www.sessioninabottle.com, where we've got all the videos, we've got all the links, ideas how to get more out of them. Because I know it's somewhat limited. There are only 6 fitness sessions, but I saw that as a limitation, and we've got ways of reading more into that. So hopefully that's really helpful. But it'd be great to come back and do some more, Andrew.
Oh, brilliant. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Dan. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and no doubt we'll catch up again soon. Thanks for listening to the Life for Tri podcast. We really hope you enjoyed, and if you have any thoughts or feedback in how we can improve, or any topics you want us to talk about in the future, please let us know. We exist to try and make triathlon simple, so your feedback is really important to us. Check out our social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe to those channels, follow us, like us, tag us into posts, just interact with us, and we look forward to speaking to you in the future. Thanks for listening.